You are now listening to the Pure Gold Business Podcast, the show built for business owners who are serious about doing the work, the real work, of building something that lasts. Every week, we bring you straight talk on the systems, the strategy, and the mindset shifts that separate businesses that struggle from businesses that scale. I'm your host, Angelo, founder of Pure Gold Business Solutions. And whether we're going deep on a concept, sitting down with a fellow business owner, or working through your challenges live on air, one thing stays the same. You're going to leave this show with something you can use. So grab a pen, grab a notepad, and get ready for today's show. I've built 4 businesses, a radio show, a faceless Instagram page, a streetwear brand, and this one, Pure Gold Business Solutions. 4 businesses, 4 lessons, and one of them changed everything. Now, I want to be clear with you right out of the gate. The difference between Pure Gold and every business I built before it wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It wasn't who I knew or where I grew up. It was a blueprint, a deliberate, intentional framework that I built this business on from day one. And today, on the very first episode of the Pure Gold Business Podcast, I'm giving that framework to you for free. This show exists because I wish someone had given it to me earlier. I spent years figuring things out the hard way, making emotional decisions instead of strategic ones, building audiences with nowhere to send them, scaling chaos instead of systems. And every single one of those mistakes taught me something that eventually made its way into Pure Gold and my teachings. So whether you're just starting out or you've been in the business for years and something is just not clicking, this episode is for you. Because today we're going to walk through my 4 businesses, what each one taught me, what was missing, and then I'm going to break down the Pure Gold growth system. 4 pillars, 8 core systems, the exact framework I use to build the highest earning business of my life. Let's get into it. But first, let me take you back to the beginning. My first business was a radio show, and I want to be honest with you about how that went because it's not a pretty story, but it's a real one. I went in completely blind. I didn't understand the app. I didn't understand the equipment. I had no business knowledge at that time. None. I just had energy and excitement and the belief that what was going to happen would work. And if it didn't, I would figure it out as I went. And for a while, that felt okay until things started not working. And when things didn't work, I didn't slow down and ask why. I didn't sit down and make a plan. I got emotional. I got frustrated. I reacted instead of responding. And eventually, I quit. I got so frustrated with the process that I walked away from it entirely instead of stopping to figure out what needed to change. And that was the real lesson. Not just that I failed, but how I failed. I didn't lose because the idea was bad. I lost because I had no plan. And when things got hard without a plan, I had nothing to fall back on except my emotions. And emotions alone will not build a business. The lesson from business number 1, take action, but don't sit there and deny yourself a plan to move you forward. Slow down long enough to know where you're going before you run. And when things get hard, and newsflash or spoiler alert, they will get hard, have enough structure in place that you don't have to rely on how you feel in the moment to decide whether you keep going or not. Now, my second business was a faceless Instagram page. And this one I actually put real thought into. I knew exactly who I was building it for. Men between the ages of 18 and 35 who were looking to reinvent themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and of course, financially. Men who were going through something and needed someone or something to hold on to in that moment. That was the audience. And the concept was simple: daily motivational quotes, tips that met people wherever they were in their journey. And it worked. The page grew, people engaged with it, the content resonated. But what really changed my understanding of business during this time was what happened when I ran my first paid ad. I took my most popular organic reel, the stuff that was working, and I put my $50 that I had at the time behind it. Just $50. And that simple investment into that ad brought in over 400 new followers in a weekend. That moment taught me that relationships between organic and paid marketing is so important. You don't use paid ads to figure out what works. You use them to amplify what's already working. The content had already proven itself organically. Paid just poured gasoline on the fire. I also started tracking my metrics seriously during this time: engagement rates, reach, what content performed best with which audience. And tracking those numbers taught me something critical. When you understand your audience well enough to give them exactly what they need consistently, they trust you. They follow you. And trust is the foundation of every business relationship that lasts. But here's where I hit the wall again. I had built real credibility with this audience, real trust, real engagement, and I still had no offer, no product, no way to bring them into a business. All of that trust, all of that attention, and all of that loyalty, and nowhere to send it. The idea was to send them to an affiliate offer embedded on a landing page so I can, make money while I slept, which is a solid concept, but the execution just wasn't there. Traffic without an offer is wasted momentum. It doesn't matter how much someone trusts you if they have nothing to give back to you for the trust you've given them. An audience is only as valuable as what you've built to bring them into. And I hadn't built anything yet at the time. That lesson lives inside Pure Gold's marketing pillar to this day, which we'll get to later. My third business was a streetwear brand, and I need to tell you this story the right way because on paper it looks like a failure, but it gave me something that I couldn't have gotten any other way. The model was drop shipping through Shopify. I'm sure many of you listening to this podcast are very familiar with Shopify. But for those of you who aren't aware of what the print on demand drop shipping concept is, it is a fulfillment model where products are only printed and shipped after a customer places an order. No inventory, no upfront manufacturing cost. The product gets made when someone buys it and shipped directly to them. It's a smart model because it eliminates the risk of holding inventory you can't move. The first collection that I had under this business was the Haunted Gala collection, and it was a collaboration with a young lady named Yasmin, a talented artist and the owner of her own art studio. You got to check her out, by the way, Happy Soma Studio. The vision was real, the concept was strong, and then everything that could go wrong went wrong. Half the models didn't show up to the shoot. The mock-ups didn't come out right. We had to change locations last minute. The whole production was chaos from start to finish. And after all of it, the collection launched and it was ultimately a loss. But then something happened that I will never forget for the rest of my life. Moments before that first sale came through, I was on the phone with one of my closest childhood friends, and I told her that I was terrified. I genuinely did not believe anyone was going to buy. Everything had gone wrong. The shoot was a disaster. The mock ups weren't what we imagined. And I was sitting there convinced it was all for nothing. And then the sale came in. Hear me again. Then the sale came in. That moment changed everything. Not just because someone bought a shirt, but because of what it proved to me in the moment of all that fear and doubt and chaos, that faith in yourself and your product matters. That showing up anyway matters. That the sale comes when you least expect it and most need it. That year had been one of the hardest of my life. I was dealing with some very difficult personal things, and there was a part of me that wanted to walk away from everything, take my ball and go home, start completely over somewhere else. But instead, I decided to stay, to heal, to build from a place of wholeness instead of running somewhere new, carrying the same wounds. Because I didn't want to go into the world speaking from a place of less, giving people advice from a broken foundation. So I stayed, I healed, I started building Pure Gold right here in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. The streetwear brand didn't make me rich, but it gave me my confidence back at a moment where I had almost run out of it. And that is worth more than any profit margin. So there I was, 3 businesses deep. A radio show I quit because I had no plan and let my emotions make the decision for me. An Instagram page that built a real audience but had no way to monetize. A streetwear brand that gave me my first sale and my confidence back, but still couldn't sustain itself as a real business. Each one taught me something real. Each one moved me forward. But when I sat down and looked at all 3 of them honestly, there was one thing they all had in common. None of them were built on a foundation. Every single one of them started with action and figure out the structure later, or never. The radio show had no plan. The Instagram page had no offer. The streetwear brand had no system for delivering consistently. And in every case where the business hit pressure, there was nothing underneath it to hold it up. That's the pattern I see over and over again with business owners. And I'm not judging it. I lived it 3 times. The instinct is always to move fast, to get the product out, to get marketing, to get clients. And all of that urgency makes sense because you're excited and you want to see the results. But urgency without infrastructure is just chaos with momentum behind it. With one missing piece of that business, it's going to cause a crack in the foundation, a framework that told me what to build in what order and why saved me a lot of headache and heartache this time around. Something that connected every part of the business to every other part so nothing existed in isolation. The Pure Gold growth system is built around 4 pillars: leadership, operations, marketing, and sales. And inside each pillar are 2 core systems, 8 total across the entire framework. Now, before I walk you through each one, I want you to understand something about the order, because the order matters more than most people actually realize. A lot of business owners start with marketing, some start with sales, and I understand why. Those are the things that feel the most urgent. Those are the things that produce revenue, and revenue is what keeps the lights on. But here's the problem with starting there. If you build marketing before you have operational systems in place, you're going to get clients you can't serve. And if you get clients you can't serve, your reputation takes a hit, and that is very hard to recover from, especially early on when your reputation is really all you have. The order I'm about to give you isn't arbitrary. It's the sequence that gives every part of your business the best chance to work. You build leadership first because everything else depends on knowing where you're going. You build operations second because you need to be able to deliver before you scale. You build marketing third because now you have something real to promote. And you build sales fourth because now you have a system to bring people in and a process to deliver them on the promise you made them. Leadership, operations, marketing, scale. Foundation first, growth second. That's the principle the entire system is built on. And that's the principle that separates businesses that scale from businesses that flop. Let's start with the first one, leadership. And the 2 systems inside leadership are financial targets and KPI tracking. Now, when most people hear the word leadership, they think about managing a team. They think about being a good boss or motivating people around them. And while that's part of it, that's not what I'm talking about here. In the context of the Pure Gold growth system, leadership means leading your business. It means being the person in the room who knows exactly where the business is going, what it's going to take to get there, and how you're going to measure progress along the way. It means making decisions from a place of clarity instead of reacting to whatever it is that's in front of you. You cannot do any of that without 2 things: a financial target, and numbers to tell you if you're on track or not. Financial targets is not a wish. It's not a I want to make more money this year or I'd love to have six figures someday. A financial target is a specific number with a specific deadline. What do you need to generate in the next 90 days? What does this business need to produce in the next 12 months to be worth the time and energy you're putting into it? When I built Pure Gold, I set a financial target before I did anything else, before I built the website, before I created any content, before I had a single client. I sat down and I decided what this business needed to produce and by when. And that number informed every decision I made from that point forward: what to charge, what to offer, how many clients I needed, what marketing would actually move the needle. A financial target turns a dream into a plan, and a plan is something you can actually move on. The second system inside leadership is KPI tracking. KPI stands for key performance indicators. And in plain terms, it just means the numbers that tell you if your business is healthy. Now, here's what most business owners do: they look at their bank account and they use that as their report card. If money came in, that's a good week. And if it didn't, that's a bad week. And that's an incredibly dangerous way to run a business, because your bank account is a lagging indicator. It tells you what already happened, it doesn't tell you what's coming. KPIs give you a leading indicator. They tell you what's happening in the business right now so you can make adjustments before it shows up in your revenue. For Pure Gold, the core KPIs are simple. How many leads came in this week? What's the conversion rate from lead to booked call? What's the conversion rate from booked call to a paying client? Those three numbers tell me everything I need to know about the business at any given moment. I'll tell you what went wrong with the radio show through the lens of this pillar. I had zero financial targets. Zero. I didn't even think about money in relation to that show. It was passion driven, which is fine, but passion without a financial target is a hobby, not a business, and I had no KPIs to tell me if I was growing or spinning my wheels. So when things got hard, I had nothing to point to and say, this is working, keep going. Or this isn't working, here's what needs to change. I just had my emotions, and my emotions told me to quit. Leadership fixes that. When you know your numbers, you make decisions based on data and not feelings. Now let's move on to pillar two, operations. And the two systems inside operations are standardized fulfillment and sales management. If leadership is about knowing where you're going, operations is about building the machine that gets you there consistently. It's the engine of your business, and without it, nothing else works the way it's supposed to. Let me start with standardized fulfillment. Standardized fulfillment means your service gets delivered the same way every single time, regardless of how busy you are, how you're feeling, or what else is going on in your life. It means you have a documented process, a step by step sequence that takes a client from the moment they sign on with you to the moment they get the result you promised them. Here's the test I use: could someone else pick up your process document and deliver your service to a client without you being in the room? If the answer is no, you don't have a system yet. You have a collection of things you do that live entirely in your head, and a business that lives in your head cannot scale. It cannot grow beyond what you personally can handle, and it cannot survive a single bad week where you're not operating at full capacity. When I built Pure Gold, I documented the entire client delivery process before I took on a single partner: the onboarding, the diagnostic, the weekly check in, the framework I use in every session. Every piece of the client experience was written down and structured before the first client ever came through the door. That's why Pure Gold can deliver a consistent result. Not because I'm exceptional every single day, but because the system is exceptional every single day. The second system in operations is sales management. Now, you might be thinking, sales management sounds like it belongs in the sales pillar, but here's why it lives in operations. Sales management is not about closing deals. It's about managing the pipeline that feeds your business. It's the operational infrastructure that makes sure no lead falls through the cracks. Every follow up happens when it's supposed to, and you always know exactly where your potential client stands in your process. In Pure Gold, every prospect who books a discovery call or a strategy session enters the pipeline. I know where they are, when they came in, what conversations we've had, and what the next step is. That system doesn't require me to remember everything. It's built into the process. And because it's built into the process, it works whether I'm having a great week or a difficult week. Let me connect this back to the streetwear brand because the operations lesson from that business is the most direct one I have. I was running a print on demand model on Shopify. The fulfillment was supposed to be handled by the supplier, but I had no process for managing orders, communicating with customers, or handling problems when they came up. And problems came up constantly. Every order felt like a new situation I was solving for the first time because I had no system. And without a system, growth doesn't make things better, it makes things harder. I was scaling problems instead of scaling the process. Operations is what makes the difference between a business that grows and a business that breaks under its own weight when its demand increases exponentially. Now, as we're talking about demand, let's move on into pillar three, which is marketing. And the two systems inside marketing are the organic marketing and paid lead generation. I want to say something about this pillar before I walk through the systems. Marketing is where most business owners live. It's where they spend most of their time, most of their money, and most of their energy. I understand that because marketing is visible. It feels productive. You post something and you can see the likes and the comments and the reach, and it gives you immediate feedback. But marketing built on the top of a weak foundation will always hit a ceiling. You can market your way to clients you can't serve. You can market your way to revenue you can't sustain. You can market your way into a reputation problem that takes years to recover from. That's why this pillar is pillar three and not pillar one. Now let's talk about what great marketing actually looks like. Organic marketing is the content, the presence, and the reputation and relationships you build without paying for them. It's showing up consistently in the places your audience lives and delivering something valuable every single time. For Pure Gold, that means the podcast, the social media content, my X threads and posts, my Instagram reels. All of it is designed to build trust and authority with small business owners who are serious about growth. The key word in organic marketing is consistency, not virality, not perfect content, consistency. Showing up every week with something valuable for your audience builds more trust over time than any single viral moment ever will. And trust is what converts attention into clients. Now, here's what I learned from the faceless Instagram page that I carry with me every day. I had an audience of people who trusted me, men between 18 and 35 who were going through something and looking for a way forward. And I was delivering content that genuinely helped them, but I had no offer to bring them into. And so all of that organic momentum just evaporated because I hadn't built the foundation. I hadn't built the offer, the operations, the sales process before I started building the audience. That experience is exactly why organic marketing is pillar three in this system. You need the foundation in place before you start building the audience. Because when the audience arrives, and it will arrive if you show up consistently, you need to be ready to serve them. The second system in marketing is paid lead generation. And the principle here is simple: you do not pay to figure out what works, you pay to amplify what's already working. And when I ran that $50 ad on the Instagram page, the reason it worked was because I used my best performing organic content as the ad. The content had already proven itself. People were already engaging with it. All I did was put money behind something that had already demonstrated its value. And that $50 investment brought in over 400 new followers in 2 days. That is the relationship between organic and paid. Organic tells you what's resonating, paid scales what's resonating. If you try to use paid advertising to find your message, you will spend a lot of money learning something you could have discovered for free. Give your organic right first, then invest in amplifying it. Now, let's talk about the final pillar, which is sales. And the two systems inside are lead management and sales acquisition. Everything we've built up to this point, the financial targets, the operational systems, the marketing infrastructure, it all leads here because none of it matters if you can't close the deal. A business that cannot convert consistently cannot scale, period. Let's start with lead management. Lead management is the system that makes sure every person who shows interest in your business gets the attention they deserve. It's the process of tracking where every lead came from, what stage of your sales process they're in, when they need to be followed up with, and what the next step is to move them toward a decision. Most business owners treat sales like it's a series of individual conversations. Someone reaches out, they have a call, they either close or they don't, and then they move on to the next one. And the problem with that approach is that money is falling through the cracks every single day. People who said they were interested but needed time, people who ghosted after the first conversation but would have closed with one more follow up, people who weren't ready 6 months ago but are ready right now. Lead management captures all of that. In Pure Gold, every lead that comes in gets entered into the pipeline. Every stage of that pipeline as a defined action and defined timeline. No one gets forgotten. No opportunity gets lost to poor follow up. The system does the work of remembering so I can focus on the work of connecting. The second system in sales is sales acquisition, and this is where the actual sale happens. Sales acquisition is the process from the first moment someone becomes aware of you to the moment they become a paying client. It's every step of that journey mapped out with intention. What happens when someone books a discovery call? How do you structure that conversation? How do you present the offer? What happens after you get a verbal yes? How does the contract get set? How does the payment get collected? When every step of that process is defined, sales becomes repeatable. And when sales is repeatable, it becomes predictable. And when sales is predictable, you can build a real business around it. In Pure Gold, the sales workflow is defined from the first touch point to the signed agreement. A prospect books a discovery call. I pre qualify them. We have the conversation. I pitch the offer and reveal the investment. They give me a verbal yes. I send the payment link. And once payment is received, a Zapier automation triggers the DocuSign partnership agreement. Every step is intentional. Every step has a defined next action. Nothing is left to chance or memory. Now I want to connect this back to where we started. Think about the radio show. No financial target, no systems, no marketing strategy, no sales process, just energy and hope and a willingness to work hard. And those things matter, don't get me wrong, but hard work without a system is just exhausting. It doesn't compound, it doesn't build, and it certainly doesn't scale. Pure Gold has all four pillars, and that's why it performs the way it does. Leadership gives me direction, operations gives me consistency, marketing gives me reach, and sales gives me revenue. And together they give me a business that works. And that's what Pure Gold has that others didn't. And the framework has a name, the Pure Gold Growth System. Four pillars, eight core systems. And it is the reason Pure Gold is the highest earning, best performing business I have ever built. Let me walk you through it. Now that you understand the four pillars, I want you to do something practical. because information without application is just entertainment. And this show is not built for entertainment, it's built for results. So let's talk about how you actually build your business blueprint. How do you take what I just walked you through and turn it into a real plan for your business starting this week? The first thing I want you to understand is the order of operations. And I already touched on this, but I want to go deeper because this is where most people go wrong. You build leadership first. Before you do anything else, you sit down and you answer one question. What does this business need to produce in the next 90 days? Not a dream, not a stretch, a real number that reflects what you need this business to generate to make the time and energy you're putting into it worth it. Write that number down. Put it somewhere where you see it every single day because that number is going to inform every decision you make from this point forward. Then you set your KPIs. Pick three numbers that tell you if your business is healthy. For most service based businesses, those three numbers are leads, booked calls, and conversion rate. How many people are coming into your world? How many of them are getting on a call with you? And how many of those calls are turning into paying clients? Those three numbers will tell you everything you need to know about where your business is strong and where it has gaps. You build operations second. And I want to be specific about what this means because a lot of people here build your systems and immediately feel overwhelmed. They think they have to document everything at once. They think they need a manual for every single thing that happens in their business before they can move forward. That's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to pick one process, the most important one, the one you do the most often, the one that, if were documented, would save you the most time and energy. Maybe that's your client onboarding process. Maybe it's how you deliver your service. Maybe it's how you follow up with leads. Pick one and write it down from start to finish like you're training someone who has never seen it before. That document is your first system and it will change how your business operates immediately because the moment something is written down, it stops living entirely in your head. It becomes something you can refine, something you can hand off, something that works whether you're having the best day or the worst day. Third, you build marketing. Once you have your target and you have your delivery process documented, now you're ready to go get clients. Now you have something real to bring people in. Here's the question I want you to answer for your marketing. What can you produce consistently? Not what's the most creative idea, not what's going to go viral. What can you do to show up consistently and deliver every single week without burning out? Because consistency beats creativity every time in organic marketing. The business owner who posts 3 times a week for 3 years will outperform the business owner who posts every day for 3 weeks and then disappears. Your audience needs to be able to count on you. That consistency is what builds trust, and trust is what builds clients. Figure out your platform, figure out your content format, and commit to a schedule you can actually sustain. You build sales fourth, and this is where I want you to do an exercise right now. I want you to map your sales path, starting from the very first moment someone hears about you, and I mean the very first moment, whether that's a social media post or a referral from a friend or a search result. I want you to trace every single step of that journey from that moment to the moment they hand you money. Write it out, every touch point, every conversation, every email, every follow up, the call, the pitch, the close, the contract, the payment. Now look at what you wrote. Where does it get unclear? Where are the gaps? Where are the steps that don't have a defined next action? Because I can promise you this, Wherever that path gets fuzzy is exactly where you're losing revenue right now. People are falling out of your sales process at the points where you haven't defined what happens next. Sales acquisition is not about being a great salesperson. It's about having a great process. When the process is clear, the sale becomes almost inevitable because you're not winging it. You're guiding someone through a sequence that was designed to serve them and serve your business at the same time. Now, let me address the biggest mistake I see business owners make when they try to implement a framework like this. And it's the same mistake I made in 3 out of my 4 businesses. They start with marketing. I understand why. Marketing feels urgent. Marketing feels visible. Marketing produces feedback you can use immediately. And when you're starting a business or trying to grow one, the pressure to get clients is real and it is constant. But if you market before your operations are ready, you're going to get clients you cannot serve properly. And when you can't serve clients properly, your reputation takes a hit. And your reputation, especially early on, is the most valuable asset you have. It is harder to rebuild a damaged reputation than it is to build a new one from scratch. I know I sound like a broken record. I'm doing this for a reason. I really want to get this point across to every single person listening to this podcast, and it's resonating with them. Build the foundation first: leadership, operations. Then you market, then you sell. I know it feels slower. I know it feels like you're leaving money on the table while you're building systems instead of chasing clients. But the business you built on a real foundation will outperform the businesses built on urgency every single time. I have 4 businesses worth of evidence to prove it. Here are the 4 questions I want you to sit with after this episode. Write them down, answer them honestly, and wherever the answer is unclear, that is your starting point. For leadership, what is my 90-day revenue target, and what 3 numbers tell me if my business is on track to hit it? For operations, how does my service get delivered from start to finish? And could someone else follow that process without me in the room? For marketing, where does my audience live and what content can I produce for them consistently every single week? For sales, what is every step of the journey from the first moment someone hears about me to the moment they become a paying client? These 4 questions are your business blueprint. Answer them, and you will know exactly what to build next. I want to take a moment before I close this out and talk about what this framework actually produced, because I don't believe in telling people what to do without showing them why it works. And the proof for me is personal. 4 businesses, a radio show I quit because I had no plan and let frustration get the better of me, a faceless page with trust but no offer, a streetwear brand that gave me my first sale and my confidence back in one of the hardest years of my life, but still couldn't sustain itself as a business, and then Pure Gold. Pure Gold is the highest earning business I have ever built, and I don't say that to impress you. I say it because I want you to understand what changed. Because the Angelo who built the radio show and the Angelo who built Pure Gold Business Solutions are not operating from the same place. Same person, completely different mindset and different foundation. With the radio show, I was operating from emotion. With the Instagram page, I was operating from instinct. With the streetwear brand, I was operating from belief, and which matters, and I'll never discount what that first sale meant to me, but belief without structure eventually runs out of runway. With Pure Gold, I operate from a system. And here's what that difference actually feels like day to day: it feels like clarity. When something isn't working, I don't have to guess why. I look at the numbers and they tell me. When a client comes on board, I don't have to figure out what happens next. The process tells me. When I need to make a decision about where to invest time or money, I don't rely on how I'm feeling that day. The financial target tells me. That's what a framework gives you. Not just revenue, clarity, predictability. And for the first time in my entrepreneurial journey, peace of mind. Because I'm not waking up every day reacting to whatever the business throws at me, I'm operating a system that I designed. And a system you designed can always be refined, it can always be improved. It doesn't depend on you having a perfect day to produce a consistent result. Four businesses, and the one built on this framework has outperformed every single one of them combined. Not because I worked harder, I worked smarter. I stopped trying to build businesses and started building systems, and the systems built the business. That's what a real business plan does. It doesn't just tell you where you're going, it builds the road to get there. And once the road is built, you can travel it over and over again. Before I send you out of here, I want to leave you with three specific things you can do this week. Not someday, not when you have more time or more money or more clarity, this week. Because one of the biggest traps in business is consuming information and feeling like you've done something. You haven't done something until you've done something. So I want to make sure you leave this episode with three concrete actions that move you forward starting today. Takeaway number one, write down your 90-day revenue target. Not a range, not an estimate, a number. Sit down tonight or tomorrow morning and decide what this business needs to generate in the next 90 days. I want you to be honest with yourself when you do this. Not what would be nice, not the number that actually sounds impressive, the number that genuinely change how you feel about where this business is going. Once you have that number, work backwards. If your service costs X and you need to generate Y, how many clients do you need? How many conversations do you need to have to close that many clients? How many leads do you need to generate to have that many conversations? That math is your 90-day roadmap, and it starts with one number. If you don't have a target, you are not running a business. You are hoping, and hope is not a strategy. Takeaway number two, document one core process in your business from start to finish. Not everything, one. I want you to pick the most single repeated process in your business, the thing you do over and over again every time you take on a client or deliver your service. And I want you to write it down like you're training someone who's never seen it before. Every step, every decision point, every communication, every time a client says yes to the moment is a result that you promised. When you're done looking at what you wrote, that document is your first system. And I can almost guarantee that the process of writing it down will show you at least two or three places where you've been doing things inconsistently without realizing it. Those inconsistencies are where your client experience breaks down, and fixing them is how you start building businesses that deliver the same result every single time. Takeaway number three, map your sales path. I want you to open a notebook or a notes app right now and write out every single step from the first moment someone hears about you to the moment they pay you. Every touch point, every conversation, every follow up, the call, the pitch, the close, the contract, the payment. And then I want you to look at what you wrote and find the gaps. The steps that don't have a defined next action, find the places where the path gets fuzzy or unclear. Find the moments where you're currently winging it and hoping for the best, because those fuzzy moments are where your revenue is leaking right now. Every potential client who didn't close, I'd be willing to bet that most of them fell out of your process at one of those unclear points. Not because they weren't interested, not because your offer wasn't good enough, but because you didn't have a defined next step to guide them. Map the path, define every step, and then commit to following it consistently. Three things: a revenue target, a documented process, and a mapped sales path. Do those three things this week, and you will be further ahead than a majority of business owners who consume content like this and never act on it. The information is only worth something if you use it. That's what I have for you today on the very first episode of the Pure Gold Business Podcast. We cover a lot of ground: four businesses and the real story behind each one, the frustrations, the lessons, the loss, and the moment that gave me my confidence back when I needed it most. We walk through the Pure Gold growth system, four pillars, eight core systems, and exactly why the order you built them in matters more than most people realize. And I left you with three things you can act on this week to start building your own blueprint. I want you to know something before I close this out. Everything I share with you today, I learned the hard way, through businesses that didn't work, through decisions made from emotion instead of strategy, through a year that almost broke me. And I'm sharing it because I genuinely believe that the mistakes I made don't have to be yours. You don't have to figure this out alone. You don't have to go through three businesses before the fourth one works. You can build the foundation right the first time, or you can start building it right now, wherever you are in your journey, and watch what changes when the structure is finally in place. That's what Pure Gold Business Solutions exists to do, to help business owners like you build the systems, the structure, and the strategy to scale. Not someday, today. And if today's episode resonated with you and you want to take the next step, I want to invite you to book a free strategy session with me personally. This is a real conversation, not a sales pitch disguised as a consultation. We sit down together, we map out your four pillars, identify exactly where your gaps are, and build your 90-day action plan together. You can book that session at puregoldbusiness.com/start. The link is in the description. If you got value from this episode, I have one ask. Share it with one business owner who needs to hear it. One person in your world who is working hard but doesn't have the foundation in place yet. Send them this episode, because the ripple effect of one conversation can change the direction of someone's entire business and life. This is episode one, and I want you to know this is just the beginning. Every Friday at 7 p.m., we're going to be right here doing this work together. Real conversations, real systems, real results. I'm Angelo Cottingham, founder of Pure Gold Business Solutions, the new gold standard of pure business growth. I'll see you next Friday.